You're looking good, buddy. Ariel Helwani
Yeah.
here.
Oh,
Let's start
this
jump right in. That
little
beautiful
thing.
hat. Just a government worker. There's
Yeah, just
you know,
trying to live out his dream. You want a pin? I got you a pin.
oh, that's nice. I will take that pin. That's a very nice pin. Mail it
We're
to
pretty
me.
much like coworkers now, right?
Um, pretty close. Pretty close. I don't think directly, but closer. We're closer than we've ever been. Let's put it that way.
Well, they told me that they wanted you for this.
Oh, did
Couldn't
they?
come to terms, so they came to me.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah. No, I was very high on the consideration. I like a lot of meetings for me they said this is the one who has opinions about everything. That's who they wanted to have in the room for something like this. No, it was
Could you imagine if you were here to talk about the Canadian women's soccer scandal?
talked
You'd
about
be
it
all over
today.
it.
I'm heartbroken. I'm
Hot
heartbroken.
takes galore.
Well, I'm just crushed for the women of the team because I'm guessing that none of the players had anything to do with it. And now you're talking about something you've prepared for years, a moment to defend as champions, and it's tainted. Like we can say it's
There's
not.
got to be more. There's got to be more to this story, though.
Oh, of course. And you're a real journalist. You're going to wait for all the facts to come out. But I'm just saying, as someone who did this with Patriots fans, and you know this as a Bills guy, that you would never let a Patriots fan escape talking about their championships or their wins without trying to slide Spygate in there. And I don't know what it was and how many people were involved. It's only been two people that have been dismissed so far. One assistant coach, Bev Priestman, has stepped down as of this. But yeah, I don't know, man. I just to me, you're going to be labeled as cheaters no matter what ends up happening by a lot of other soccer players. That's how I see it's going to go down.
It's definitely a black eye, and it's kind of crazy that it happened before the games actually began.
Yep.
But I will say why I think it is a little bit weird and why I can't wait to hear more. It's like it's New Zealand. Like
Yeah.
they're not playing the US. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So if you're going to spy on someone, why are you spying on the worst team in the field?
No
That's why I
idea.
feel like something is amiss. Like were they filming something? Like were they doing their own kind of show documentary and a drone went awry? Also, there's an intense amount of security here.
Mm.
You can't just be flying drones around and not expect to get caught. So I don't know. I feel like something's there's more to the story. I'm not being a homer or anything here. If
Yeah.
they are cheating, they deserve to be punished for that, and it's good that they were caught. But just a bizarre. It's a bizarre way to start. You know, the I'm in no way comparing the two, but the only other Olympics that I have ever covered were
Mhm.
the 2010 games, and I covered them for AOL.com. I wasn't a part of a broadcast rights holder team or anything like that, so the experience is already dramatically different being
Mhm.
a part of the CBC team as opposed to just a website. But on the first day, and technically today is day -2, and then tomorrow's -1, and then 0 is Friday, or I should say, whenever this airs, Thursday is -1. Um, on the first day, if you recall, a skeleton racer from Georgia died
Yeah.
while practicing,
Yeah.
and that was like a black cloud. Now, please, I am not comparing the two at all, but
Of course.
I like upon landing, a scandal breaks, and it just took me back. I was like, wow. It took me back to 2010 when that happened, and so that felt like a rough way to start. This obviously way less important, but at least for Canada, not a very good way to start.
Okay, but let's go with you because you're Canada. Okay, you're CBC. You're the guy. You're boots on the ground. You're there. I know you recorded a bunch of interviews with a lot of Canadian athletes. So I actually am curious, and I think that this is interesting because it's a lot of there's a lot of sports here, man, that you're not going to be familiar with heading into this thing. I'm guessing that you don't keep up with the day to days of, kayaking, right? Like
Sure.
that's not your thing. How many hours go into this for Ariel Helwani? Because you also, it's not like the UFC and the fight game has stopped. Like you were just at Jake Paul's boxing match. You've got a family. You've had an interesting Knicks offseason, to say the least. You got a lot on the go here. So I am kind of curious as to what the process has been for you trying to get acclimated with some of these athletes, with some of these storylines, how long this has been going on for you. Like, what's it been? I'm guessing that it's kind of like an exam that now you're actually at the exam, you're writing the
Yeah.
exam, and you're going like, oh, thank God this is finally over because the prep was the hardest part.
Yeah, so they reached out to me in May of last year, and
Yep.
initially I thought it was a bit of a joke. I was like, wait, is this like spam? Is someone playing a prank on me? But it was real. So that's when all of it kind of started. So think about that, May, and here we are, end of July. And the team has been phenomenal and very welcoming and very helpful. But to your point, in addition to the stuff that I just did, I mean, I'm doing, on average 11 to 12 hours a week of content,
Yep.
live, booking guests, all that stuff. So it's not like I could sit back and have my binder ready and all this stuff because I'm covering a sport that never sleeps. So what I did was, listen to podcasts, listen to interviews, listen to YouTube channels, things like that. Keep up with it. Create a Twitter list. I'm big on the lists. So like, I have a Knicks list. I have an MMA list. I have a boxing list. I have a wrestling list. I have a sports media list. I have a Olympic list. And that basically curates everything into one feed, one
Mhm.
flow, if you will. And so I kept up with that. I do want to give a shout out to CBC Sports. They have a daily newsletter called The Buzzer, which is a
Mhm.
fantastic recap of the day that was and a look ahead to the day to come. And that has kept me in a nice little package abreast. But yeah, to a degree, I'm not, I'm never going to claim to be an expert. And I think that that was part of the appeal. When I sat down with the 10 or so athletes in December in Montreal when we did those pre-games interviews, I think they liked the fact that I was sort of an outsider looking in and that I
Yeah.
wasn't afraid to ask certain questions that maybe an insider who has too many relationships and too many connections to the athletes would be afraid. For example, there's a sprinter named Aaron Brown.
Mhm.
He is teammates with Andre DeGrasse, and there's always been sort of an underlying tension in their relationship. And I just flat out asked them about it because I was curious about it, and they all told me that no one's ever asked them that before, and that was a big deal. I'm just like, oh well, that's what I ask people about. I ask them about their beefs and
You're
tension and
also
things
from the
like
fight
that.
game, so you love the drama. You're like, I know how to, I
Well,
know how to ask the questions about the
like that's
drama.
that's the interesting stuff. So
Yeah.
yes, I'm sort of getting, I'm now immersing myself in it. I'm not doing anything else as far as
Mhm.
my other jobs while I'm here, just maybe like a little cameo here or there. And and I'd like to think as journalists, like we could kind of pick it up and follow the big stories.
Yeah, I hear you. Just, you are someone that is like really known for preparation and details. And, like I don't want to go too in the weeds on this and like over compliment you as you're doing the show, but I've said this to you many times. Like it is like as someone who is in media who gets to watch your work, it's crazy the amount of details that you get. And yeah, that you're not someone that, overly speculates. You like to know. And so it's a lot of information to be taking in about a lot of different things in a very short period of time. So yeah, I hope that you're excited for it and that you're not overly nervous. Cause I do think that, like, listen, there's only one Scott Russell, right? Like there's Scott Russell and that's him 24/7, every
Last
single
games for
day.
him.
Yeah, he's the man. Like
He's
he was
retiring
actually
after this.
he was my teacher at
Wow.
sports media college. He will
Wow.
not remember me. He's got too many
I'm gonna ask him.
details. Yeah, he's got too many details in his head. You could ask him. We actually got along great. He made me cry in his class because he's such a patriotic Canadian that when he goes on and waxes poetic about old Canadian athletes, Terry Fox in particular, like he can get you. He can pull the heartstrings. But yeah, I hope you enjoy it, man, because I think it's gonna be great. Okay, let's just do one more on the Olympics though here, because you're
Sure.
a hoops guy. I'm so
Oh
glad
yeah.
that the American team didn't take Brunson and do the whole thing. Like Canada
Thank
hockey
God.
does they'll take lines. They'll be like, okay, we want to have D pairings. Like they'll take Colorado's top D pairing. Team USA could have basically just been like, we're going to take the Knicks. We're going to have a rotation of the Knicks players, and it would have been fine for them. Thank goodness they didn't do it so that you didn't feel your allegiances torn. Thank goodness Jalen Brunson isn't there so you don't follow him around and ask him for interviews. You can just
I don't.
focus
I
on
just want
team.
to. I just don't want to root against him.
That's what I mean. This is the perfect scenario for you that he didn't end up on the team. You're the only Knicks fan that's like, nice, leave him off the team.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Leave him off.
exactly.
Put Joel on there. Great. I don't have to. I don't have to feel anything towards those guys.
Is the Canadian men's Olympic team the most interesting thing to you as a hoops fan? Is there anything else that outdoes it? Is there a storyline going into the Olympics that when you were doing your preparation, you went, actually, this intrigues me more than the basketball?
Nah, for
Yeah.
me,
Okay.
nothing more.
Thank you.
Nothing
Yeah.
more. I mean, come on. First time since 2000. I remember waking up early to watch Steve Nash and Todd McCullough, the
Yep.
only two NBAers on that team. I mean, they really had no shot and were so deep, despite the fact that there's no Wiggins or Zach Edey or Mathurin or guys like that. I mean, it's
Mhm.
unbelievable to see Shea and Jamal and Lou Dort and RJ, Olynyk and Powell. It's a great squad, but it is worth noting. I mean, their group is awful.
Deadly.
Like we are in for it. Like this is
I don't
not
think
going to
people
be
realize
easy.
how good Australia is.
Oh my God, Australia might be the one that I'm most worried about.
Yeah, same.
They gave US a run for their money, um, so it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. They're playing their games in Lille, which is about an hour away from Paris. But if they get past the group stage, then their games will be in Paris, which I'm really looking forward to. Because then, hopefully, if they can make a magical run, I mean, look at what just happened with the soccer team in the Copa America. It
Mhm.
just seems like the whole country, um, comes together when it's these these team sports, and they go on these runs when they're not expected to. Now, obviously,
Yep.
this team is a great one, and I think as far as the odds are concerned, they have the second best odds. But it's a dream. Like I was all in last year during the World Cup. I wanted them to finish in a spot where they can qualify for the Olympics and not have to qualify earlier this month. And it's just been so amazing. As a longtime lover of all things Canadian basketball, as someone who was so proud that Bill Wennington came from Montreal and Rick Fox was Canadian. I mean, we had
Mhm.
nothing. We had nobody. We couldn't have been more of an afterthought. Look at us now.
Yep.
And so, what a story that is. We have some of the best players in the world. But, I mean, the whole basketball field is infinitely more interesting than the soccer field, if you ask me. All the stars are here. France has a great team. Germany is the defending World Cup champions. Obviously, the U.S. has brought out the Avengers, and they've stumbled a little bit
Mhm.
in the exhibition games, but I think they'll be fine. Greece coming back with Giannis involved. I mean, every single Serbia. It's just amazing. The basketball field is absolutely amazing, and the women's field is great too.
Yep.
So yeah, for me it's Canada, but like I just can't wait for the basketball to tip off. Part of the
Yeah,
pun.
the women had been carrying us in terms of like actual representation of our best players. I think this is the thing that I find most interesting about the Canadian men's national team is if you're our age, right? Like if you're around our age, we've seen the program go from nothing to the bright spot of Nash to the end of Nash and the handing off and the era of promise. And the idea that it was going to be, like at first, like the Corey Josephs and the Tristan Thompsons and the Mike Kabongos and those first guys that started coming up and thinking, holy crap, like Canada basketball might be something. Then, Wiggins and, Anthony Bennett, even when he goes first overall, and believing like, holy crap, Canada basketball is not only going to be good, they could end up being great. And then all the years of just not being able to accumulate the talent there, right? All the
Losing to
qualifiers
Czech
were,
Republic. Remember that one?
yeah, exactly. So it's been a really painful, long, drawn out journey for these guys. And now all of a sudden, Team Canada actually has, you're right, it's not the full squad, which is awesome, but they've got an incredible squad led by Shea Gilgis Alexander. And I love that all of this is instead of feeling like it's gravy to be here, right? Like, the Sid and I talked about how Canada soccer it was gravy, and that
Yeah.
was the entire thing. What I really love about this is that we haven't been here in so long, and yet it feels like the stakes are extremely high to show out and immediately be one of the biggest players on the world stage. Like losing to Spain would be a disappointment for Team Canada.
Yeah. Who'd have thought?
And it's our first Olympics since '02. Like it's insane.
In a way, it reminds me a little bit of the feelings that at least I had going
Yep.
into the World Cup in 2022. But the big difference was we were all just kind of hoping for like a
For
goal
sure.
and like a draw.
Yep.
I will be despite the fact that they're in the group of death, I will be genuinely bummed if they don't make it past the
Oh, I'd be
group stage.
crushed. Be crushed. Everyone would be.
They need to get a medal, and obviously making it to the gold medal game would be tremendous. A bronze would be tremendous.
Mhm.
But anything short of that to me is a big disappointment. We're not, as the great Conor McGregor once said, we're not here just to take part. We're here to take over. And this has happened quickly. They didn't make it to the last Olympic Games. That was a bit of a bummer. And then the ones prior, like they were an afterthought. So this is great, man. This is great. I'm so excited. I love Jordy Fernandez. I'm a
Yep.
big fan of his, and I think it's awesome that he stayed on despite the fact that he's now the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. The vibes are great. They
Yep.
need to win that first game, and I think they should. They should
Mhm.
beat Greece, despite the fact that they have Giannis. They've looked solid. Even the first half of that Team USA game was solid, and then it's Team USA. There's no shame in losing to them. But this is big. This is big for Canadian basketball. It's big for the generation of fans that have now grown up and don't know what it's like to just root for Bill Wennington and Rick
Yeah.
Fox and Todd McCullough. They are
Yeah.
spoiled, And I'm
Oh,
happy that they're spoiled. I'm happy
yeah.
that they get this.
I loved Tom McCullough. UW
The man.
legend. Like
The
who? How
man.
how could you not
Winnipeg
love
boy,
Tom
right?
McCullough? Yeah, of course. Okay, so I got a couple of UFC things for you. I'm very excited that you're here. I
What's
think it's
that?
very well. It's 304 this
Nah,
weekend. I know you
okay,
got to try to
okay.
put your brain into this. I'm gonna start with Pimblett because there was a real moment that he had a couple of years ago where it was, hey, this guy is going to be one of the faces of the UFC. He's going to be one of the stars. He had a little piece of the McGregor thing.
Hmm.
You know, a brazen guy who had a cool accent, who talked a lot of trash. He had the cool weight thing where, he balloons up in between fights to basically unrecognizable and then cuts weight down to just being like a statuesque dude. He had this meteoric rise, and over his last couple fights I feel like we've maybe seen his ceiling, which might not be a champion. Is that how you see it? Do you think that there is a harder cap ceiling on this guy? Like, how important is this fight in your eyes for him when it comes to what the yeah, I keep saying the same word, but what the ceiling is for this fighter?
Well, it's also very important because he revealed that he's on the final fight of his contract
Yeah,
and he hasn't resigned and he's open to going down the influencer boxing route, whatever that is. Um, so, I can't imagine why the UFC wouldn't want him back. Does he leave after a win? I mean, I'd say his leverage would be high, but what's better than the UFC? And he worked so hard to get to the UFC. If he loses, he obviously, loses leverage. So that's one storyline. Another storyline that's interesting going into this is that he revealed in interviews this week that his
yeah,
mental health was in such a bad place going into this fight that his coach actually suggested maybe pulling out of the fight. Not a great sign. But I will also say, I don't know if you've seen photos of him. He's in incredible shape. He's got like an
unreal.
8 pack. He
Yeah,
looks
unreal.
fantastic. Him and Molly both look fantastic. They're good friends and training partners.
Yeah,
Um, and so I don't think that we should write off Paddy Pimblett. Don't forget, he technically hasn't lost a fight in the UFC, although I think that Jared Gordon um,
yeah,
definitely beat him that night. I thought the Tony fight was actually his best fight in the UFC, despite the fact that he didn't finish Tony and Tony's getting up there in age. The problem is that was 8 months ago, and people have kind of forgotten. If he
hmm
could get a big win over Bobby Green or King Green now, everyone will be on the bandwagon. And yeah, there's been some missteps, and you know, obviously, elephant in the room. He and I had a bit of a thing, and I don't think that turned out well for him. But he's still supremely popular, and I think a lot of people want to back him. And is he championship level? I don't know, but I certainly think he's UFC caliber, and I certainly think he could be top 10 UFC caliber. It's just been a bit of a tough stretch here. So I don't know what the ceiling is. He happens to fight in the best weight class in the UFC right now. And so it will be probably hard for him to become a champion. But you know how it is as well in the UFC. If you're popular and you
yeah,
win a certain amount of fights, they will shortcut you to the
for sure.
top. It's happened a ton of times. Sean O'Malley, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so all you need is that one signature. Sean got the Peter Yan win, boom, title shot. So you need that one win. If they position this correctly, he could be there.
Do
There's
you think
there's
Bobby
there's
Green
no
would be
doubt
a
about that.
signature win like that though?
No, no, no,
Yeah,
no. There
I
has
think
to
he
be
needs
something
one
else.
more after this, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, like
hundred
he would
percent,
need one
a
more after
thousand
this.
percent.
I just, yeah. In the words of GSP, if we're doing it, I'm not impressed by your performance. That's how I usually feel when I have watched the last few Paddy the Baddy fights. When he came on the stage and he started his rise, I went, oh my God, is this guy going to be a phenom? He was incredible, calling his shots, the pressure that he was putting on, the ability to get up off the cage when he was challenged by guys that were trying to take him to the mat. I thought, oh, okay, maybe there's something here. Lately, I haven't seen it. I am hoping that it does happen, though, because I do think that he's a super interesting personality. I do love the way that he speaks. I loved his quote, even from this latest media conference, where he talked about, where they asked him about the 8 pack and whether or not he'd want it. And he's like, no, I'd rather be fat and happy and miserable with the 8 pack. And I went, hell yeah, brother. I relate to that. I can tell you that every single time I go for a beer in the sun, that's exactly the mentality that I'm bringing into it. Do you think Tom Aspinall can be a great heavyweight?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What could be? He is the best heavyweight in the world.
Okay.
That's the
Sure, but
title.
there's a
Tom
difference, but
Aspinall.
that usually that can come with an asterisk at times. You know what I mean? Like sometimes the
Not to
heavyweight
me.
division doesn't have a grade in it. Do you think
He
he's going
is
to
the
be a
best.
great?
He is the best heavyweight in the world. I think he has everything to be a generational talent. He is a cross between Frank Mir and Cain Velasquez, two of the best heavyweight champions of all time.
I
He
love
is
that.
unbelievable, and he is just scratching the surface. Look what he did to Sergey Pavlovich. I expect a dominant win over Curtis Blades. I don't think John Jones wants anything to do with him. I don't blame him. Um, and I would, and to me, if John beats Stipe and rides off into the sunset, if
Mm.
sign me up for Alex versus Aspinall. If not, there's a bunch of interesting fights for Aspinall. But Aspinall is that guy. He
Yeah.
is 1000% that guy. And what a stud. What a down to earth, likable guy. What a guy to fly the flag for UK MMA. I mean, Leon and Tom together are
Yeah.
just salt of the earth guys. So UK fans should be really proud to have them as the faces of UK MMA right now. And yeah, I'm blown away by Tom. Tom is incredible. His boxing, his striking overall, his grappling, his jiu-jitsu. No one can touch him. No one can touch him, in my opinion.
I gotta tell you, I love comparisons, and usually I think people are kind of off. That Kane Frank Mir comparison, like that, that's about as perfect as it gets. Like that's a
And what a
great one.
combo, right?
That's a.
Even like even his body is like them. He
I
can
was just
like
gonna
kind of
say that
yeah
he looks like he's those two guys mashed together.
yeah.
Like the way Frank Mir moves reminds me of the way that he moves. And yes, the striking is probably a little bit closer to Kane, the great lost heavyweight. Okay, last one on UFC 304. The headline event, the top of the card, to me is two guys that for whatever reason just do not seem to resonate with the casuals. And despite Leon having one of the coolest knockouts ever, I don't find him to be like a massive needle mover. I don't know if you've seen like their YouTube interviews when they get stuff up, and you would know this better than anyone, right? Because you probably follow your own metrics in terms of who does well and who ends up like kind of moving the needle. I saw Belal Muhammad was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and this is something with like millions of subscribers, and somehow only managed to do like a paltry few thousand views on YouTube.
Wow.
Do you think that this fight can change anything for either of those guys? Like Bilal's trying to do this thing now where he's talking about GSP and how he'd be the next
Oh,
one.
don't get me started. This is nonsensical
I know,
nonsense
but
that he
don't you think
feels.
he's just doing that because no one feels a way about him, that he's trying to
Yeah,
get attention? Like this is all this is. He's just like, I've tried everything else. I need to get attention somehow.
sure. I mean, he just had to sit there as he was foaming at the mouth to fight on UFC 300 and watch the UFC essentially offer the Leon fight to anyone but him.
Yep.
They've been trying to give this title fight to anyone but him, and he deserves it. And he deserved it more than Colby Covington, and he should feel some sort of way about it. But some people connect and some people don't. I will tell you this: Leon may not be connecting with the casual worldwide audience, but he's definitely connecting in the UK, and that means
Mm-hmm.
something. He's headlining this card. This card is happening in the middle of the night over there to cater to the North American audience. They'll have a sellout. And if he wins on Saturday, which I expect him to, he was en route to winning that fight a few years ago before the unfortunate eye poke. I think he will come across like a star, and it's always good to get a hometown win, if you will. I know he's not from Manchester; he's from Birmingham, or at least he lives there now. He is originally from Jamaica, but the point is, he will come across like a star, and he's, I think, slowly but surely, kind of like he's sort of like the championship aura is kind of fitting on him slowly but surely. It takes some
Mm-hmm.
time for others. It happens very quickly for some other fighters, and so it's fine. Not everyone has to be like a generational worldwide superstar. Not everyone fits that bill, but Leon has come a long way, and Leon was a guy that the UFC didn't want to give a title shot to for many, many years, and he kind of forced their hand, and he was a minute away from never getting another title shot again. And what a story it's been so far, and it's been one of the best stories considering where he's come from and what his family has had to overcome. So I'm okay with it, and I'm happy that sometimes these fights happen because there should be somewhat of a meritocracy in the UFC. The
Sure.
top guy should get a title shot, even if
Yeah.
he isn't popular, even if it doesn't sell pay per views. That's the way it should work. It shouldn't always be just about pay per views. There should be some sort of sport element to all this. And you hope that one and two are two gigantic stars and everyone wants to see them fight, but sometimes it doesn't work out that way. And you have to get these fights going so that you could get to the Rachmanovs or the Ian Garys or the Jack Della Maddalenas. Those guys are waiting on the other side of the rainbow. You just have to, you have to kill off contenders en route to
I,
getting to that.
I couldn't agree more. That was what the whole UFC when it started was predicated on. was that you were going to have the best on best and you were not going to be able to avoid these matchups. And that's what they were going to be selling more so than the personalities. I think that for Leon, like he can like to make the actual GSP comparison. I think that that's sort of the route that he can take. Cause I've watched him on your show before. I've seen him speak multiple times. He to me does feel like a very authentic martial artist, an authentic guy, doesn't go out of his way to just say things for the sake of saying them. Obviously like a good like family man, just a guy that if he keeps winning, I think will start to just accumulate more respect. He's never going to have like the Pereira aura where he walks in and you're like, oh my God, is this guy like when Yuri Prochazka talked about the what was it, the spirits that he invokes? And
Oh
then
yeah,
when Pereira walks in and he's got the music playing, he's got that Sepultura song going, and you're like, oh yeah, I totally understand why Yuri Prochazka lost this fight before it even began. How could you not believe that this guy has the mystic? But I think that there is a path for Leon to connect a little bit further, and it's kind of like that same GSP Volkanovski mold. Volk funnier, but just that same like, wow, I'd like to know this person MMA fighter where you get to the point where the skills just become completely undeniable and the wins rack up. So I think it's a huge one for him at home. Like this might be that tipping point
100%.
moment for him.
Yeah, and it's another title defense, and again, there's some big fights waiting for him on the other side of all of this. So
Yep.
you got to win these fights, especially you can't lose the belt at home. You can't lose the belt in the UK. That
No.
would be disastrous.
Yeah, completely agree. Last thing before you go, does Conor McGregor fight in 2024?
Yes, December 14th.
December 14th. That's going to be the one.
The unfortunate thing is like he would be ready to go in August or September, but the UFC is steadfast. They call the shots. They have the dates. You're gonna fight when we tell you to fight, and doesn't matter if you're the biggest draw in the history of the sport or Leon Edwards or a debutante. And there's a part of me that feels like you have him ready. Don't tempt fate.
I know,
But
they seem to
look
be
what happened. He
do
could have
that.
fought at 300. No, we're gonna save him.
And now you don't end up doing it. And like, yeah,
Yeah.
then I'm with you on that. It's just, if you look at it, have they announced those cards or was that just a leak? Because
No.
I saw it online with where they went, here's what the like full summer schedule, fall, summer
No, I
schedule.
laid it out. And then people like the aggregators made graphics out
Okay.
of
So
it.
that was, okay.
And
I
that was
knew
nothing
you,
official.
yeah, yeah. But I also saw one where it was like some broadcast somewhere. Didn't
Oh,
you
that was
see that?
TVA. That was
Yeah.
TVA in Quebec
Yeah.
saying
Were
that.
they going off yours?
I don't know what they were doing. I never said that. They
Uh,
said Ilya Taporia and Max Holloway were fighting on the Sphere card along with Marab and Sugar Sean, and that's not true at all.
Okay. So that one got debunked.
Oh yeah, by me too. I
Okay.
mean, I don't know what they were doing. By the way, you think the UFC is announcing that double main event on TVA Sport in Quebec?
No, I don't. I thought it was leaked. I thought they just screwed
No,
up
no, no.
where they like,
I think one of the broadcasters or maybe someone in his ear read some bogus website and was like, "Oh
okay.
yeah, say this."
All right, that makes more sense. I will say that I did send that to my brother and went, "Holy cow, this is pretty incredible. This run that they're gonna have."
Bro, don't you know by now? If it
Yeah,
ain't coming from Helwani,
that's
it ain't a fact,
that's fair.
Jack.
That's fair. That's fair. Maybe I should have just bothered. I should have used a bullet and texted that one to you earlier. You know,
What
use the
bullet? You text
Helwani
me about
information
way
bullet.
more stupid things than that.
That's what I'm saying. I know I
Yes,
text you stupid things, but that's what I mean. I got to save my bullets for the using
the
the
stupid
stupid
things.
things. You
No, I'd
know?
rather more like I'm happy to debunk things.
Oh, I know what you'd rather, but this is about me. This is about the access that I have to a friend who's at the top of the game. Hey, man, again, it's really cool seeing you do this. I can't wait to watch you throughout all these
Thank you.
broadcasts. Yeah, I hope that you're not hard on yourself because I know how broadcasters can be with this stuff where it's like they hold themselves to the standard of like the main sport they cover. I know you're going to do a great job, but yeah, man, I hope you
I
just kind of
hope
soak
so.
it in and enjoy it and yeah, be happy that you're there doing it.
Thank you. Every night at 11 p.m. Eastern, it will air on CBC Gem and YouTube and all the other places where they have streaming. My show is called Paris Tonight. But what's really cool about it, so there'll be sort of like a recap show and an interview show, but I'm also going to be on the telly, including on the opening ceremony broadcast on Friday. How
Love
the
it.
hell did I end up here? I don't know, but I'll
Hard
enjoy
work.
it while I can.
Hard work. Hard work. Hard work. Hard
Thanks,
work.
man.
Hey man, proud of you, happy for you. Thanks again for making time, even though you know it's a bit annoying when you're in Paris.
Yes, no, it's very annoying, but my
Yeah,
pleasure.
yeah. Thanks, buddy.